I have always felt in positions that I've had that education is the only permanent solution to poverty. And I'm a firm believer, having worked in homelessness, that education is the only permanent solution to homelessness.
What education rights do children and youth have under the McKinney-Vento Act, and why do they matter?
We all know education is the way out of poverty, so we need to really push education and encourage young people to get their education.
For our mothers who live with us and for the children both, what a difference it makes to understand, especially if they didn't know before, that McKinney-Vento allows them and their children to continue their studies at their school of origin. So if their friends and if their special classes and if those great teachers that they get along with so well are at a particular school, they have the right, and in fact it's the law, to be able to continue at that school.
That's really important. At least they can still keep their friends, because if we take away their house and their pet and their bedroom and all of their stuff, and now they don't have any friends, my goodness gracious.
The regulations pertaining to homeless children and getting homeless children enrolled in school are magnificent. They're really absolutely a very good tool to help make sure that children stay in school.
They were told by the office, you can't go here. And when they said to the clerk, no, we're pretty sure we can, the principal even came out and spoke to the family and said, no, you can no longer go to this high school. They came back to our transitional living center that day, and as they came through the door, faces were pretty long. Mom was pretty upset, and she started talking about it immediately. And I told her, I said, not to worry. Let's just all remain very calm, not to worry. They just don't happen to understand McKinney-Vento, but it's actually federal law. So it supersedes anything that a principal is going to tell us. I mean, we'll be very polite about it, and we'll have our children's advocates speak to people so that it's friendly and kind. But if you want to continue on at that high school, that's exactly what you can do. And we'll explain it so they understand. And that's, I think, the power of McKinney-Vento.
It's up to the parents, of course, but based on my experience, I encourage them to go ahead and keep the kids in the school of origin. It's going to be less disruptive to the kids, and I believe that they're going to do better in school.
And I love the fact that there is actually federal law on the books that makes it mandatory for school districts to do the right thing.
They don't have records. They've had problems getting the records. There again, under the McKinney-Vento Act and with Estella's help, with SAISD's help, you know, we can have them in school, you know, tomorrow morning.
Children have to be enrolled immediately.
And there will be kids that will get their high school diploma because of the McKinney-Vento and Act in Estella Garza's office.
McKinney-Vento education rights. The McKinney-Vento Act requires every LEA to designate a homeless education liaison to implement the law, allows students to remain in their school of origin, requires immediate enrollment without documents, requires immediate enrollment of unaccompanied youth, automatic eligibility for free meals, and Title I-A. How can service providers support children's education rights? The Hearth Act requires HUD-funded homeless service providers to support children's education rights and collaborate with schools in several ways. 1. Inform families and youth of their McKinney-Vento education rights and do not restrict their exercise of those rights. 2. Designate a staff person to ensure children are enrolled in school and connected to school and preschool services. 3. Collaborate with schools, including assisting schools in identifying homeless students. 4. Consider education needs when placing students in shelter and housing, and keep children as close as possible to their schools of origin.
They're going to go to school. That's just all there is to it.
1. Inform families and youth of their McKinney-Vento education rights and do not restrict their exercise of those rights.
The best way to get started is to encourage the parents to enroll the children in school right away when they get to your campus or your shelter or your housing facility.
We sometimes have to educate clerks that might be working in the office at the schools. Sometimes we even have to educate the principals. But that's part of our job, is to help our mothers and families be able to find a way to continue some stability in lives that have had upheaval.
If they don't know what they're entitled to, these people get lost within the system.
They need to know that there's such a thing as a school district liaison that they can go to if they have problems.
2. Designate a staff person to ensure children are enrolled in school and connected to school and preschool services.
Because they have children that live in their shelters and in transitional housing, and they need to be able to advocate on behalf of the children that are living in their shelters and transitional housing.
We've implemented, and this has occurred through a volunteer position first, and will probably become a paid staff position because we found it so helpful, is a children's advocate within our own program staff. And that person then develops the rapport, develops the relationship with the school liaisons.
When we have someone that's on our side, so to speak, that we can just simply, all that's necessary is for us to pick up the phone and say, Estella or Erica, this is what's going on. We need your help. We need your advice. We need assistance. And it's taken care of just like that.
3. Collaborate with schools, including assisting schools in identifying homeless students.
We're very fortunate that our El Paso Coalition for the Homeless group here in El Paso, as well as our City of El Paso employees who oversee programs that deal with homelessness, have decided it's important enough to have regular meetings with ISD people.
Throughout the years, we've been able to build all those relationships up. We have a monthly shelter and school district meeting, to make sure that as many as possible are on the same page. Shelters know what to expect from school districts and vice versa.
I think that schools could do a better job of outreaching to unaccompanied youth, working with maybe local service providers to identify youth that should be in school and are not, and then helping them.
4. Consider education needs when placing students in shelter and housing, and keep children as close as possible to their schools of origin.
The entire school environment it's a safety net, it's a support system, and if the child, is going through a lot of instability in the home life, at least that provides stability for that child, their friends, their teachers, and so that's why it's so critical you keep them in their attendance zone.
Supporting school success for homeless students. Practical tips from service providers. 1. Learn about students' rights and share that information with all parents and youth when they enter your program. 2. Get to know your local school district homeless liaisons. Develop protocols to refer children and resolve problems. 3. Form a child and youth subcommittee of the Continuum of Care and invite local homeless liaisons to participate. 4. Talk to parents and youth about the importance of school stability. Review your program placement and operational policies to ensure they support school stability. 5. Help young children connect to Head Start programs and assist older youth to apply for financial aid for college via the FAFSA.
If we can work with the school district, if we can work with Estella and SAISD to help the children be as stable as possible, I think in the long run we're going to all be, as society, much, much better off.
For more information about the McKinney-Vento Act in Education, please contact the National Association for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth at www.naehcy.org or the National Center for Homeless Education at center.serve.org/NCHE, toll-free 1-800-308-2145.